One day on the calm beach, Haley harvested a large bucket of seashells and sea snails, planning to sell them to a nearby stall owner. The owner could tell at a glance that these sea snails were incredibly fresh, so he offered a price of 10 copper coins per kilogram. He secretly rejoiced, knowing that fresh sea snails were hard to come by lately. He thought he had really struck gold today thanks to this foolish girl. But Haley had no intention of selling them to the owner at such a cheap price. Her target price was 70 copper coins, which led to an argument between her and the stall owner. Eventually, Haley made a bet with him if she could sell all of these sea snails herself. In exchange, he would have to do business with her at regular market prices from then on. The stall owner didn't pay it much mind, assuming the little girl would give up quickly. With the agreement struck, Haley paid a stall fee of 10 copper coins per kilogram and started peddling her goods right next to the owner's stand. Haley shouted loudly to the crowd, announcing a limited-time special exclusively for the first 4 customers. Starting right then, the freshly caught sea snails were on sale for just 1 silver coin per kilogram, with a strict limit of 2 kilograms per person. The stall owner was completely stunned by Haley's marketing tactics. In no time, a large crowd was drawn in by her pitch. In a mere 5 minutes, every single sea snail in the bucket was sold out. Haley walked up to the stall owner with a smug look on her face. "You're going to keep your promise, right? From now on, I'm selling all my sea snails to you." The man hadn't even fully processed what had just happened, but he was someone who knew how to admit defeat. Still, he couldn't help but be curious. This girl was incredibly clever and quirky. He didn't think a girl like her had ever appeared in Snorrel before, and he had certainly never seen her. Of course they hadn't seen her, because it had only been 2 days since Haley transmigrated into this romantic fantasy novel. 2 days ago, Haley opened her eyes to find herself in an abandoned shack. The face reflected in the broken glass was so unfamiliar that she barely recognized herself. She searched all around the shack but couldn't find any information about who she was. However, piecing together a few clues, she realized she had possessed the body of a character in a novel. In the original story, the female lead, Nyloa, pressured the male lead, Broden Ilfin, into marriage. This was written as the condition to lift his curse. That was how the original work went. But there was a problem. Just as Haley was deep in thought, someone called out to her from behind. "Haley, it's been so long. You disappeared for a while, and I was worried sick." From the woman's words, Haley finally learned her own name. It seemed Haley was an illegal resident without even a proper registration. In her past life, Haley worked at a food factory by the sea, picking up seashells after work to earn extra money. But after finally paying off her father's debts, she died from severe overwork. Now, in this life, she was completely penniless and an undocumented immigrant. After chatting for a bit, Haley parted ways with the woman and tried to cheer herself up. She decided to look on the bright side. At least here, no one could drag her down with their debts. That was a pretty good start. Plus, she had figured out exactly where she fit into the story's timeline. Even though she was in rags, she at least had a shack to live in. And this morning, she had found a buyer, meaning she could make some money picking up seashells. She planned to use that money to start a small vegetable garden behind the shack where the sea breeze couldn't reach, slowly repair the house, and make herself some good food. Haley wanted to live freely here. To her, a life like this sounded absolutely amazing. But right at that moment, Haley heard an argument. Behind her, a man was arguing with a child. The child's wrist was forcefully grabbed, and his voice was filled with panic. Haley immediately concluded this was definitely a kidnapping. She had almost forgotten that in the original story, this area was the exact location of a serial kidnapping ring targeting homeless, undocumented children. Broden himself personally intervened in this case, and it was right here that he first met Nyloa. Haley dropped her bucket. They said the serial kidnappers only targeted kids who looked like orphans. That meant if they saw a child with a family member, they wouldn't lay a finger on them. So she immediately rushed over and hugged the child. "There you are, I've been looking everywhere." She knew she had to play the role of his family. Even though she didn't know if this would alter the plot, she couldn't just stand by and watch someone get kidnapped. But wow, this little boy was way too cute, wasn't he? She immediately switched into acting mode. "You disappeared out of nowhere. I was worried sick, you little troublemaker. When we get home, your big sister is going to give you a good scolding." She even turned and thanked the man. "Thank you so much for looking after my little brother. He's young and doesn't know his way around very well." The man grumbled under his breath. "Keep a better eye on your kid, will you? Do you know how dangerous the world is right now?" Internally, she scoffed. Look in the mirror, buddy. You are the danger. She glanced at the child. You can't just run off like that. It's really dangerous out here. She figured the little boy must be terrified. She asked him how old he was. Just tell me and I can take you back home. The boy said his name was Baron Aldit, and he was 7 years old. She had a feeling he might be a noble. If she took him back, his family might give her a reward, and then she'd have money to fix up the shack. Unfortunately, he didn't have a mom or dad. He had no home. The royal family had ordered his entire clan to be executed, stripping them of their titles and confiscating all their wealth. His nanny had left him at an inn, promising to be right back, but she never returned. Of course, this was all just her imagining things. She felt like she had asked something she shouldn't have and apologized to him. Baron froze, not understanding what she was saying. But then he shyly nodded. It's okay. But honestly, what was she supposed to do with him? She remembered there being an orphanage nearby. Just as she said that, the little boy spoke up. Are you planning to throw me away? She was stunned. She was an undocumented immigrant living in poverty in a rundown shack. If she adopted a homeless noble child, wouldn't she be doomed? It would literally be becoming a mom out of nowhere. 10 minutes later, she still decided to take Baron to the orphanage. Sister, are you really planning to send me to an orphanage? He asked. She explained that the orphanage had adults who would help him, feed him, give him a place to sleep, and protect him. Baron's expression darkened. I don't need any protection. You can just leave me here and walk away. She definitely wasn't comfortable just leaving him there. Did you forget you almost got kidnapped earlier? Baron asked what would happen if he got taken by them. According to the storyline, Baron would likely be forced into hard labor, or sold to pirates. Either way, he would end up as a slave. Once a child was taken, the rest was tragically obvious. Regardless, she was determined to take him to the orphanage. If your legs start hurting, just tell me. Sister, what happens if my legs hurt? Does that mean I can't walk so I won't have to go to the orphanage? She told him that wasn't what she meant. Just as she was about to explain, his little hand suddenly stopped. Sister, my legs really hurt. I don't think I can walk anymore. He clearly hated the idea of the orphanage. Judging by the way he walked, his legs were perfectly fine. But she didn't have time to waste. She had a ton of things to handle. So, she told Baron, let me just take you to see the orphanage. Maybe it's better than you think. Baron didn't say another word. She then offered him her back. I'll carry you the rest of the way. Didn't you say your legs hurt? I'll carry you. That's what I meant earlier. She waited for a while, but Baron didn't move. However, at her insistence, he finally let her carry him. A shy blush crept onto Baron's little face again. She walked all the way into the evening until they finally arrived at the orphanage. The iron bars at the entrance and the padlocks made it look exactly like a prison. She was still praying in her heart that maybe it just looked run down on the outside, but the inside would be different. However, from the outside, she saw people yelling at the kids and forcing them to do hard labor. They weren't dressed well at all. Amidst the shouting and verbal abuse, the children looked emaciated and dressed in rags. She just couldn't bring herself to leave Baron here. Just then, Baron called out to her, Sister, are you really going to put me in a place like this? She hesitated. Then she said, No, we're going home right now. We aren't going anywhere else. You should just live with me. We're not going to the orphanage. And that was exactly the outcome Baron had wanted. She promised herself she would work hard to fix up that old house. She was going to start making money right away. At the very least, she had to be responsible for this child. They didn't get back home until the next day. Baron's expression didn't look too great. Your house looks like a condemned building. It was true, just as Baron said. Her house was in terrible shape. Sister, how do you even live in a place like this? Broken furniture was scattered everywhere. She didn't even know how she managed to live there herself. This wasn't supposed to be her home to begin with. She quickly apologized, feeling like she had dragged Baron from one terrible place into an even more dilapidated one. He said it was fine, noting that it was still much better than the orphanage. She knew it was better than the orphanage, but this was absolutely not a suitable environment for a child to grow up in. So they had to start by cleaning this messy, filthy house. Baron didn't know where to begin. She told him not to worry. Cleaning wasn't a job for a child. She would handle it. Right now, the biggest help you can give your sister is to just sit quietly right here. Baron didn't argue. First, she had to reignite the embers she had covered with ash that morning. Baron was still a child, and she absolutely couldn't let him catch a cold. Then she found some torn newspapers to tape over the windows so broken glass wouldn't fall and hurt him. Finally, she piled all the garbage into one corner and moved it outside, leaving a clean little room. Mission accomplished. The next step would be slowly repairing the place once she made some money. Baron had to be starving. After all, he hadn't eaten all day. She told him she was going to make him something to eat right away. But just then her expression turned to absolute shock. She saw Baron reaching for a piece of cutlery. She carefully told him to come over and put the item down first. Then she asked him to hold out his little hand. She pressed it gently and he winced, saying it hurt. It seemed he had gotten a wood splinter stuck in his hand from the shack. From now on, you must absolutely never touch anything sharp or worn out with your bare hands, do you understand? It was her negligence. She should have warned him earlier. Hearing her say this, Baron felt his index finger throbbing a bit. She couldn't see anything on the surface, which meant it was buried deep. If left untreated, it could get infected. There was no other way. This was the best she could do for now. She told Baron to bear with it while she helped him get it out. She then used her teeth to bite down gently on his little finger to pull it out. Baron's face turned completely red, all the way to his ears. That's enough, sister. Please let go. Time flew by, and soon it was night. Baron still seemed to be acting shy. It was getting late, so she told him to hurry up and go to sleep. He insisted he wasn't shy, just wanting to put the sea snails away. But to her, that was such a flimsy excuse. Just leave the sea snails over there. I already soaked them in seawater, so they'll spit out the sand. Do you remember that gritty feeling when you ate them before? That's because they had sand inside. If they soak long enough, they won't have sand and they won't taste gritty. I'll make you some breakfast tomorrow morning. Now hurry up and lie down. Helpless Baron could only obediently listen. Even though this little bed is a bit cramped, please bear with it. I'll make money and buy you a real bed. She gently touched his body and noticed he was entirely tensed up. If a normal child were held like this, they would have snuggled under the covers long ago. If you feel uncomfortable, I can stop, she offered. Baron hesitated for a moment, then obediently burrowed into the blankets. That's more like it. That's how a child should act. It felt just like holding a little kitten in her arms. If she had left Baron at the orphanage today, she never would have had this moment. Good night, Baron. Good night, sister. As the night deepened, she was sleeping soundly. Baron's little head shifted slightly. Then he slowly stood up. At that moment, the look in his eyes was completely different, and his pupils were glowing red. Baron walked to the beach alone. He softly muttered the words, "Will-o-wisp." Suddenly, a purple light flashed across the sky, and a knight appeared behind him. It was Dullahan. Answering His Majesty's summon, I have come to seek an audience. He reported on the status of the monster invasion at the North Gate. Since the large-scale annihilation battle, no signs of monsters have been detected. They surely fear the blade of oblivion unleashed by your majesty. The undead army continues to monitor the area, so they are unable to show themselves for now. Baron nodded in understanding. As expected, bringing them into Sita was the right decision, though it certainly left me trapped in a child's body. Dullahan predicted that it would likely become an issue again in about 3 years. Aside from that, Dullahan had one burning question. He couldn't understand why His Majesty was staying in such a dilapidated place. Of course, Baron had his reasons. Initially, he had intended to use this youthful body as a cover to solve the kidnapping case. But he encountered an unexpected obstacle. While pretending to be a child to keep his identity hidden, Baron somehow ended up living under the same roof with someone. Dullahan warned, with the army constantly being summoned like this, your Majesty's recovery will be delayed. Are you sure this is okay? Baron's eyes instantly sharpened. Dullahan, you seem to be talking a bit too much today. Dullahan was terrified, cold sweat forming on his face. Following Baron's orders, Dullahan departed. Then Baron sent the crow on his arm to deliver the location to Raven. It seems I won't be able to return to the north for a while. The crow processed the message. By His Majesty's command, the message has been delivered. With that, it flew off. Baron's original plan was to personally infiltrate and solve the kidnapping case. But somehow, he ended up with a guardian and was now living with her. So, keeping his distance and waiting for the right moment was also a viable option. When Baron eventually returned to power, he planned to give this commoner a promotion and a large sum of money as a reward. Meanwhile, she slowly opened her eyes. As soon as she looked up, she saw Baron staring at her with a sweet smile. Time flew, and it was soon noon. She was getting ready to go to the beach to dig for sea snails. She told Baron to wait for her at home. He wanted to come with her, but she refused. After all, his finger hadn't fully healed yet, and getting seawater in it would hurt a lot. "I'll be back before the sun completely sets. Just wait here like a good boy. Oh, and while I'm gone, make sure you watch the house. Don't let any thieves in." With that, she left Baron home alone. However, Baron grumbled internally, would anyone really break into a house this rundown to steal something? The shellfish and sea cucumbers here grew huge and were incredibly abundant. She wondered if the villagers simply didn't bother coming out this far to comb the beach. This was great news for her. If she gathered more seafood, she could sell it for more money and properly take care of the little guy. But thinking about it, Baron almost got kidnapped, which meant the original plot was still in motion. This meant it was currently the time frame before the male lead, Broden, returned. In the original work, Broden was a cold-looking man with black hair and red eyes. He possessed the ability to summon spirits from the underworld, but this power came with a side effect they called a curse. The more Broden used his power, the younger his physical body became. His mother, the former Emperor Linda, died young because of the curse's power. Even his father, Duke Beldenbra, suddenly passed away after serving as the first regent. As a result, Broden was sent by the second regent, Lady Beldenbra, to the portals in the northern mountains, the origin point of the monsters. Later, while solving the Snorrel child kidnapping case, he met the female lead, Niloa. It seemed Baron was just a side character, much like her. The side effect altered Broden's physiological age, but his eye color was different. Furthermore, Baron was the sole survivor of an exterminated noble family, and he was so cute and lovable. So, unlike Broden, Baron would definitely grow up to be an incredibly handsome man. Suddenly, she realized something. Without her noticing, the sun was almost setting. She had promised Baron she'd be back before sunset. At this rate, she was going to be late. Just then, she saw a bright white light flash in the sky. She was certain it was coming from the direction of her house. She hurried back to the shack, but when she arrived, the light she had seen flashing above the house was gone. Baron pointed out that she was late. "You said you'd be back before dark." She quickly apologized. "It looks like gathering seashells took longer than I thought." She casually asked Baron, "By the way, did you see anything strange outside earlier, like a bright white light that flashed a few times and then disappeared?" Baron claimed it was a flash firefly. She had never heard of a flash firefly before. Baron explained that it was a rare type of bug that emitted a light the size of a fist. "I used to see them occasionally pop up in the garden of our old house. They flash brightly and then disappear. They are very smart, so if you know what you're doing, you can even tame them. If you'd like, I can catch one for you and help you tame it." She had no idea Baron possessed such a skill. He mentioned that flash fireflies could be used to fish in the dark. Honestly, it was a fantastic idea. Taking one out to sea could really help her catch a lot more sea snails, especially since she couldn't afford proper lighting equipment anyway. Baron was waiting for her to say she desperately needed one, but she intentionally didn't play along. "Our little man doesn't need to work that hard. Your sister can handle it all by herself. It's absolutely no problem." Baron is so smart, cute, and lovable, she thought. Where on earth did you come from? She then told him to wash his hands and get ready for dinner. Baron couldn't understand it. She clearly could have used his help, so why didn't she let him do it? Every adult he had ever known only cared about their own interests, but this commoner woman seemed a bit different. Looking back, from the moment she saved him from the kidnappers purely out of kindness, to the moment she took him to the orphanage, and finally, despite her own incredibly difficult circumstances, she still tried to take responsibility for him. A cascade of questions left Baron feeling very confused. Just then, she smiled and told Baron to hurry up and wash his hands for dinner. Baron realized this woman was truly special. "All right then, let's leave it at this for now. I'll just quietly stay here, grow up, and keep my identity hidden." The next day, she took Baron to the stall owner. The boss was still marveling at how she had sold out all the sea snails in 5 minutes a few days ago. She traded the seafood she had caught for a sum of money from him. After she left, the boss was highly suspicious. This girl doesn't even have crab traps. How is she planning to catch blue crabs, which only come out at night? Don't tell me she's planning to go into the sea after dark. That's incredibly dangerous. The boss shook his head. Unless she has a death wish, she wouldn't be that foolish. With the money she earned, she bought Baron a new outfit. She also planned to buy some soap, toothbrushes, dip nets, and rope for beachcombing. On top of that, she needed to buy cooking supplies. The rest of their time was spent on a massive shopping spree. She bought a whole basket full of goods. These things were much cheaper than she had imagined. Baron praised her for being quite capable. Then Baron suggested buying a glass bottle. Although she was a bit confused about why he wanted it, asking him didn't yield an answer. Since it wasn't expensive anyway, she bought it for him. Baron said it was a secret and that he would tell her later. After buying everything, they prepared to head back. Baron asked her to let him carry the basket. He claimed he was very strong and that carrying these things would be no problem at all. But how could she trust him? Even she thought it was heavy. How could a 7-year-old boy possibly lift it? Still, she thought seeing him struggle might be pretty cute. So she let him try. Be careful, don't hurt yourself. The next second, she was paralyzed with shock. She never expected Baron to be this strong. He effortlessly lifted the massive basket of goods. Baron casually remarked, "Because I'm short right now, it's a bit awkward to hold, but otherwise it's fine." She was completely blindsided by how incredibly capable he was. He explained, "The Viscount Aldet family has been a lineage of knights for generations. My dad was exceptionally strong from a young age, too. So I guess that's the reason I'm so strong." Watching him speak about this so nonchalantly, the sole survivor of an exterminated noble family, possessing facial features and maturity far beyond his years, coupled with strength rivaling an adult's. She had a strong premonition. This must be a foreshadowed plot point in the novel. Usually novels write it like this. A title stripped, property confiscated, signifying the Empire's sword had fallen on the Aldet family. If so, the blade of his revenge would inevitably point squarely at the royal family. If this path was true, Baron's future was to become a swordmaster dreaming of vengeance. She felt her guess had to be right. In a side story, there was a mediocre swordsman who clashed with the imperial royal family. He proposed to the imperial princess, but was rejected, eventually leading a rebellion against the crown. He was a swordmaster and also the commander of the imperial knights of the Orphan Empire. But that rebellion was doomed to fail. Gifted with incredible talent, he was destined to spend his life sharpening the blade of revenge until the end of his days. Poor, pitiful Baron. Baron looked at her crying and was thoroughly confused. She quickly told him they should head home because they still needed to cook dinner. She was determined to pull Baron's death flags. She would make a lot of money, feed him well, dress him well, and ensure he lacked nothing growing up. If he could grow up happily in such an environment and enjoy life, eventually, as time passed, when he found a girlfriend and a sense of belonging, his thirst for revenge would quietly fade away. She would not let Baron follow in her past life's footsteps, trapped by poverty. No matter how hard the road ahead, she would pour out all her love to protect this child as he grew, raising him into a warm-hearted person. To raise Baron properly, she needed to work harder at beachcombing and make more money. Night quickly fell. Tonight there was no wind and the waves were calm. She figured she should go take a look. She told Baron to wait for her at home while she went to the beach, because some seafood only came out at night. Even in the dark, she could still check the shallows and rock crevices. Baron told her not to go, as it was too dangerous so late at night. She told him not to worry and that she'd be back early. Clearly, Baron didn't believe a word she said, especially since she was late last time. At that moment, Baron noticed the basket behind him. Quietly, he slipped the bottle containing the flash firefly into the basket. He watched helplessly as she headed toward the edge of the sea. After she left, his gaze shifted. He summoned a man who appeared behind him. The man adjusted his glasses. Raven answers His Majesty's summons, but he noticed Baron was ignoring him. "Your Majesty, why are you in such a remote place by the sea?" Baron replied that he was waiting for someone. Raven had no idea who Baron was waiting for. Baron said he was waiting for his roommate, confusing Raven even more. Baron finally said he was waiting for his older sister and that they were living together. Raven thought Baron must be half asleep and delirious. Where would he get an older sister? "Your Majesty, forgive me, but I don't quite understand. Who is this older sister you speak of?" 10 minutes later, Baron had explained the entire situation to Raven. "I'm currently posing as an orphan to hide my identity." Raven asked where Haley was now. Baron pointed a finger. "She went out to sea to catch sea snails." This terrified Raven. "Isn't that extremely dangerous? There are things in the sea at this hour." Meanwhile, on the other side, she arrived at the sea only to find it pitch black. She couldn't see a thing. Maybe she should have brought a flashlight. Just then, bubbles began rising behind her not too far away. A dark shadow was rapidly approaching. However, she remained completely unaware, as it crept closer step by step. She was just busy wondering why no one came here to harvest all these sea snails. She had no idea a massive monster had surfaced right behind her. Raven was deeply concerned. "Don't you know sea slimes appear in that area?" But Baron didn't panic at all. "Raven, do you know what a sea slime's weakness is?" Raven paused for a moment. "If I recall correctly, it should be light." Back on her end, she finally noticed the dark shadow behind her. But just at that moment, the firefly in her basket began to emit a soft glow. The light rapidly expanded. She had no idea what was happening, or where the light came from, but it was exactly like what she had seen that day. The sea slime behind her had already retreated beneath the surface. She was still marveling at the fact that this must be the flash firefly Baron had mentioned. No wonder he wanted her to buy a glass bottle. It was so cute. With the light illuminating the pitch-black water, she realized she could see perfectly. She also spotted blue crabs and tons of sea creatures. "Just you wait, Baron. Your sister is going to catch all this seafood, make money, and buy you delicious food." Hearing that Baron had put a flash firefly in the basket, Raven breathed a sigh of relief. Sea slimes were giant, nocturnal, water attribute monsters. They glided quickly through the water, lunged at their prey with their massive bodies, and sucked them dry of blood until they died. A normal person would stand absolutely no chance and would just be throwing their life away. "So, you sent Ignis to protect that Imperial citizen?" "Exactly. I can't just let her die," Baron said. However, Ignis was a high spirit. Not only that, but if His Majesty had also summoned Dullahan and the undead army, restoring his original form would take an agonizingly long time, longer than Raven could even imagine. But despite this, Baron didn't care in the slightest. With a grand wave of his hand, Baron summoned a creature named Carmen. A column of rock suddenly shot up from the ground. "Carmen, at your service. What are your Majesty's orders?" Baron ordered Carmen to repair the area, reinforce the ground so the shack wouldn't collapse, and tidy up the surroundings. Quietly fix anything that needs repairing. Don't make it too obvious. Since you're huge, shrink yourself down so you aren't spotted. And don't make a sound. Raven was shocked again. His Majesty was actually using a high-tier earth spirit like Carmen to do mundane chores. He then summoned Salamander. With a flash of red light from Baron's hand, a giant red lizard appeared. Though called giant, it was only the size of a palm. Seeing His Majesty after so long, the lizard was overjoyed. Baron ordered the lizard to start a campfire and relight the charcoal inside the house. This was incredibly easy for the lizard. Given it was a fire attribute creature, Raven was beyond stunned. He was having high-tier spirits like Carmen and Salamander do menial household tasks. What on earth was His Majesty thinking? Baron explained he would be staying here for a while. He told Raven to tell the royal court that he was in the north, or make up some similar excuse. Then he instructed Raven to arrange a proper identity for him, so living here wouldn't be inconvenient. Finally, there was one last thing to note. Baron leaned in and whispered something into Raven's ear. Afterward, Raven slowly vanished. Baron thought to himself that these arrangements should be enough. He didn't have any grand, noble reasons. He was just doing what he wanted to do. After all, this was what he owed her. Meanwhile, she finally rushed back. "Baron, look at everything I caught today." She had actually harvested even more seafood than she did during the day. "It's all thanks to you. You put the firefly in the bottle, didn't you? When did you manage to catch it and put it in?" "Thanks to our little lucky charm, I caught all these giant sea snails and those super expensive blue crabs." On another front, a woman received a letter from the Kingdom of Kalat. She noted that she understood and would reply shortly. Then the messenger vanished from the room. In this empire, the only one with royal blood flowing through their veins is 2 years away from coming of age. Up until now, you have ruled in his stead as regent. But when that day comes, he will legally and officially ascend the throne as emperor. Thinking of this made the woman incredibly irritable. She had no intention of stepping down so easily. The text explicitly stated that one must possess a special ability to sit on the throne. And she was Anna, the current regent of the Ilfin Empire. The next day, she took Baron to a nice restaurant. They had made good money beachcombing yesterday, so she wanted to show her appreciation. Baron worried that she might be spending all their money at once. She figured cutting steak might be tough for him, so she offered to cut the meat to make it easier. Baron said there was no need. He could cut it perfectly fine himself. He ate with such elegance, truly fitting of his noble background. Most kids his age would struggle to cut meat like that. He had clearly learned proper table manners as an aristocrat. They quickly polished off an entire plate. It had been so long since she'd had such a satisfying feast. It was delicious. Thanks to Baron, she was able to eat such amazing food. Last night, you were the one who put the flash firefly in my basket, right? Thanks to that, I was able to catch shellfish at night. So, I am truly grateful to you, Baron. You're capable, incredibly cute, and just my little angel. Baron's expression turned a bit thoughtful, and then he grew shy. Actually, it wasn't that big of a deal. She had originally made up her mind to take good care of Baron, but in the end, he was the one helping her. As Baron's guardian, wasn't there something she could do for him? Suddenly, she remembered something. Since you're a noble, your identity information should all be officially recorded. You helped me catch the firefly earlier, and I'm so grateful. So I wanted to do something for you in return. I plan to open a savings account in your name. Since you enabled me to catch seafood at night, you definitely deserve a share of the profits. We'll steadily deposit the money into your account. Then later on, you can go to school. You can make lots of friends at the academy. Doesn't that sound exciting? But Baron didn't want to go to the academy. He felt like things were escalating too much. She urged him to listen to reason. If you go to the academy, you might even become a knight. Then you can earn merits, win back your noble title, wear a handsome uniform, and join fun clubs. But Baron seemed completely uninterested in all of that. Looking at Baron, she felt he might just be feeling shy. Maybe there was something embarrassing he couldn't bring himself to say. So she guessed, could it be, you want a piggyback ride? Baron was utterly dumbfounded. Why does this commoner just blurt out whatever comes to mind? He quickly stood up to deny it, but couldn't think of a better excuse in the moment. So he just decided to roll with it. Yes, I want a piggyback ride. After paying the bill, they left. True to her word, she let Baron climb onto her back. You must be tired, right? You walked a lot today. I'll carry you home. Baron obediently rested on her back. Without realizing it, his face had flushed red all the way to his ears. They soon arrived home. But to her confusion, a large pile of construction materials had appeared right in front of her door. It looked like someone was building a vacation home there. And the materials looked incredibly high quality. Compared to that, her shack next door looked pitifully shabby. She was quite curious who would come to such a remote place by the sea to build a house. Once it was built, maybe she'd get to meet the owner. Just then, she spotted a suspicious figure. She was terrified. Was it a robber? Or maybe the kidnapper who tried to take Baron last time? Since Baron was with her, she had to avoid danger at all costs. But just as she was about to leave, the person spoke. Oh, so someone does live here. Hello, are you the owner of this house? Raven spoke very politely, but then his expression turned to absolute shock. The Baron on her back was actually making such an incredibly cute face, just like a little puppy. Baron grumbled that she could put him down now, as it was getting embarrassing with someone watching. She asked the man why he was at her house. Raven quickly apologized. When I bought this plot of land, no one mentioned this. I thought the shack was empty, so I just came over to take a look. That's when she realized he was the owner of the house being built next door. Raven politely extended his hand. It's a pleasure to meet you. I am Raven. I'll be your neighbor from now on. I hope we can get along well as neighbors. She carefully studied the man in front of her. He had long black hair and cold green eyes. He was smiling, but she couldn't read his true thoughts. He looked exactly like the male lead Broden's right-hand man from the novel. His appearance was virtually identical to the Raven described in the book. So she blurted out, "Could you be Sir Raven, Anna?" This startled Raven, but given his status, he naturally wasn't going to lose his composure over a single comment. "Oh, so you've heard of Sir Anna. Unfortunately, we just share the same name. I am a merchant." She quickly apologized for mistaking him for someone else. He brushed it off, saying, "It's fine. A lot of people mix us up. I look forward to getting along with you. Just call me Crow from now on." "All right, Mr. Crow, please take care of us." Looking around, she noticed he seemed to be planning to build a large mansion. Raven indeed intended to build a grand and beautiful estate there. Then Baron chimed in, "By the looks of it, it's probably only going to be about as big as our shack, right?" That gave Raven quite a scare. Yes, exactly. I just want to build a little vacation cabin. As for the massive pile of materials, his excuse was that he miscalculated the size and ended up buying too much. Baron jumped on that immediately. Then what are you going to do with the extra materials? Since you aren't going to use them anyway, why don't you just give them to us? Her head throbbed. Baron, you can't behave like that. She comforted Baron while simultaneously apologizing to Raven. My little guy here is still young and a bit immature. Baron, you can't use such a casual tone with Mr. Raven. You have to use polite language because he's a stranger you just met and he's much older than you. But she had forgotten. Aside from his parents, Baron had never used formal language with anyone in his life because he was an aristocrat. But even if he was a noble, if she didn't correct him now, he might grow up to be a total little tyrant. She had to start teaching him right now to ensure he grew up to be polite. Baron, from now on you cannot speak to adults casually. You must speak respectfully. It doesn't bother me, but our neighbor might mind. He might feel offended if you just walk up and talk to him however you want. So Baron directly asked Raven, do you mind if I speak casually to you, or should I use a polite tone like my sister said? Raven replied that it was entirely up to him, and that he didn't mind at all. She was stunned. Was he really that easygoing? Having your little friend speak casually to me actually makes me quite happy. It makes me feel like we've truly become friendly neighbors. It seemed her guess was right. Raven was a very agreeable person. Baron shot her a smug look. See, I was right. She then formally introduced them. I'm Haley, and this is Baron. Thank you for being so understanding. He's a bit peculiar, but he's kind-hearted. He'll make a great neighbor. He seems like a really cool guy, Baron remarked sarcastically. Baron couldn't understand what was so cool about this guy. He thought to himself, we've only been chatting for a minute. What exactly do you find cool about Raven? I brought him next door to use him, and instead, he's just getting in the way. Raven couldn't help but sneeze. Who on earth is talking bad about me? The next day came quickly. She planned to bring Baron along to plow the field. Once they turned the soil and sowed the seeds, they could grow all kinds of vegetables. That way, they'd have fresh seafood from the beach and fresh ingredients from the garden to pair it with. Let's get to work. She used a stick to draw the boundaries of the field and placed branches at each corner as markers. Soon, her little vegetable patch was marked out. Now they needed to use a hoe to turn the soil. But after one strike, her arms went numb from the shock. When did the soil get so hard? There were rocks in there, too. No wonder no one was using this land. It looked like she'd need to work much harder to clear it. Otherwise, she'd never turn it into a proper field. After a busy morning of not slacking off for a single second, the ground was still incredibly tough. This was exhausting. Was her little garden dream going to die right here? If only she had a tractor from her past life. Baron was pacing on the sidelines, constantly urging her, Sister, when are you going to be done? She didn't know when she'd be done, but she at least had to get this soil turned. Baron insisted he had plenty of strength and could help. But she didn't want him experiencing such hard labor at his age, so she insisted on doing it herself. Baron was thoroughly confused as to why she wouldn't accept his help. Kids shouldn't be doing this kind of work. Let your sister handle it. Don't push yourself too hard. You're still young. Your only job is to play. Baron stared intently at her back. This woman is truly extraordinary. After working all day, her body was completely drained. Come to think of it, when she first possessed this body, she thought she had literally starved to death. She thought she had regained some strength, but maybe plowing the field was pushing it too far. So she told Baron to just eat some bread for dinner. She wanted to go to bed early today. She still had to go beachcombing and shopping tomorrow, but her body felt as heavy as lead she couldn't even move. If she just slept it off, she should be fine, right? After falling asleep, she suddenly felt intensely hot. She didn't know what was going on, but even the air felt sticky. Suddenly, she heard Baron repeatedly calling her, Sister, wake up! When she opened her eyes and looked up, she saw a royal palace on fire. She had no idea where she was or what was happening. The scene unfolding before her was absolutely terrifying. Just then, someone grabbed her arm. He told her to follow him because the area was about to collapse. He also said the enemy was searching for survivors. She didn't know who this person was, but she saw the crest on his uniform. She was positive she had seen that crest somewhere before. Soon the palace was completely engulfed in flames, and the enemies relentlessly chased them. With no other choice, she followed the man and kept running. The soldiers behind them were multiplying. They wouldn't stop until they turned the area upside down to find them and ensure they were dead. Then, the knight stopped in his tracks. From now on, you must listen to me very carefully. You will have to go on alone from here, and I will buy you some time. You must survive. Because you are the sole heir to the Meriden Kingdom, Princess Adeline. You are the only survivor now. Hurry and go, Your Highness. She struggled and hesitated for a moment, then closed her eyes, turned, and ran. Watching her leave, a smile appeared on the knight's face. Your Highness, you must survive. Suddenly, her eyes snapped open. She felt like she had just had an incredibly strange dream. The sense of realism in that dream was overwhelming. Seeing her panicked expression, Baron guessed she must have had a nightmare. You were groaning in your sleep. I was really worried. He handed her a handkerchief to wipe her face. But then she realized something. Before she went to sleep, her whole body felt as heavy as lead. Now her muscles weren't sore at all, and she felt incredibly light. Baron quickly explained that he had given her a massage while she was asleep. Thank you so much. I feel so much better thanks to you. Still, she couldn't help but wonder about that dream. A burning castle and a knight wearing an unfamiliar crest. For some reason, it felt deeply familiar. Was it really just a random dream? Later, she took Baron to the bookstore and told him to pick out any book he liked. The place looked a bit like a used bookstore. If Baron couldn't sleep at night, she could read him stories from the books. Soon, Baron picked out a fairy tale book. The Complete Fairy Tales of the Ilfin Empire. She told him if there was another book he wanted, he could pick that one too. While browsing, she spotted a history book about the Empire. The information in the novel was limited, so learning the historical details of the Empire might actually help her. She figured she should probably buy a book for herself too. Soon, Baron found another book. Sister, can you buy this one for me? When she saw the cover, she was startled. What kind of book was this? It was so thick. And it was written in a foreign language. What were these bizarre symbols? Could Baron actually read foreign books? Baron casually named a topic, saying it was a book about frogs. There are so many frogs in the world, did you know? The more information you have, the more types of frogs you can catch. Hearing his explanation, she decided to buy it for him. She noticed Baron really loved the book, clutching it like a precious treasure. Other kids his age were interested in cars or dinosaurs, but Baron was into frogs. Baron, do you really love frogs so much that you wanted this book? Baron instantly looked proud. Yes, I really like frogs. Toads are cool because they're huge. Poison dart frogs are awesome because of their bright colors. And tree frogs are just undeniably cute. They just hop around being tiny. Sister, don't you like frogs? She told him she liked frogs too. Frogs are cute and they go ribbit. This made Baron even happier. I like that part too. The ribbit is super cute. Suddenly, Raven appeared behind them. He certainly didn't expect His Majesty to be so passionate about frogs. She quickly greeted him, surprised to run into him at the market. She handed Raven the frog book Baron had chosen so he could take a look. And sure enough, it was a book about frogs written in a foreign language. The book says this specific frog only lives in the northern regions. It seems it often becomes prey for small monsters. It looks like you're studying the northern region in advance to prepare for the future. That's truly remarkable, Baron. She was in awe of Raven's knowledge. He was amazing. But hearing him mention the north reminded her of something. Wasn't that where the monster gate was? She had heard that place was terrifying, freezing cold, with a portal that constantly spewed out monsters. But why would Baron be heading there? Raven explained that it was because every Imperial citizen, once their identity was verified, was subjected to mandatory military service at the Northern Monster Gate at least once. She understood now. It was a military draft. Mandatory conscription. Anyone between the ages of 15 and 40 could be drafted at any time. She didn't think he was joking. The original novel never mentioned anything about mandatory service. The thought of such a small child eventually heading to such a brutal battlefield broke her heart. That place was far too dangerous. Baron told her not to be sad, saying that when he grew up, he would bravely protect everyone. Of course, Baron wasn't in any immediate danger since that was still over a decade away. But she still couldn't shake her worry. The idea of this little boy facing a cruel war made her deeply upset. At that point, Raven brought up another topic. If you don't mind, I'd like to find a time for us to have a meal together. What do you think? My move should be completely finished within 2 days. Are you free to have lunch that day? She thought about it carefully. He would definitely be exhausted from moving that day. So she suggested, Why don't I prepare lunch for us that day? Baron smugly chimed in, My sister's cooking is delicious. So they agreed to meet for lunch that day. It had been a while since she'd shown off her culinary skills. It time to bring out her signature dishes. Time flew, and it was night again. Speaking of which, that flash firefly was truly peculiar. All you had to do was give the bug a name, call it a few times, and it was tamed. She figured it was because it was a magical creature from a fantasy world that such a thing was possible. Just then, Baron eagerly asked her, You said you'd read me a bedtime story earlier. Were you serious? She assured him she was, and that she would read him one right then. The first story was a picture book about the North Gate. Long, long ago, there was a hero born with divine power. This hero could summon and command armies of demons, spirits, and ghosts. But great power always came with a price. The price was that the more the hero used his power, the more he slowly faded from people's sight. The hero defeated the monsters pouring from the gate and faded from the public eye. To protect the empire, they held their posts in the biting winter winds. There they fought alone, repelling all manner of monsters. They were the heroes of humanity. Thanks to this hero, everyone in the empire lived a happy and peaceful life. Internally, she complained, what kind of fairy tale was this? This ending felt entirely wrong. I'll read you a different story next time, she said. But Baron thought it was a perfect, happy ending. The hero fought, and everyone lived safely. But I think, she countered, if people can never see the hero again, don't you think the hero would be very lonely? Even with an army of demons, ghosts, and spirits, a hero is still a person. Wouldn't they want to live among other people? Baron slowly spoke. One person sacrifices themselves so the masses can be saved. Isn't that a good thing? A single sacrifice to save the many. Perhaps that isn't wrong. But did the hero do something wrong? Does he deserve to suffer such loneliness? She gestured for Baron to come closer. How does it feel when I hold you like this? He said he could hear her heartbeat. It was warm and smelled nice. His feeling was simply that it was so warm he didn't want to let go. That was exactly what she wanted to tell him. That is the warmth of a person. It's the temperature of the heart that everyone possesses. And since heroes are people too, they also need someone to share that warmth with. So, an ending where they are left alone in the bitter winter is just too sad. Therefore, the ending in my heart goes like this. The portal completely vanishes. True peace finally descends upon this world. And the hero who protected the empire gets to live happily together with everyone else. I think that ending is much better. What do you think, Baron? She realized Baron hadn't responded. He seemed to have fallen asleep. Good night, Baron. Have sweet dreams tonight. Deep in the night, Baron quietly slipped away from her side. He slowly pushed open the door and stepped outside. He walked over to her little vegetable patch, noticing that her daytime efforts had left it looking like a total mess. He ordered Carmen to come out, pick out every single rock buried in the soil, fill it with good dirt from nearby, and make sure to restore the surface exactly as it was. Baron watched Carmen work the entire time because he was afraid she'd notice something was off the next day. He had to make sure it looked identical to before. Carmen worked tirelessly for quite a while until the field was finally restored to its previous appearance. You couldn't even tell the difference. With this, plowing the field will be much easier for my sister. You did well. You may return. After Carmen left, Baron's mood clearly dropped. That so-called fairy tale? I already knew of the Regent Anna's ambitions, but I never expected them to infiltrate the fairy tales read by children. The message in that story is far too obvious. Live like the hero who defeated the monsters at the North Gate. The intent is glaringly clear. People probably think it's a happy ending, saving the empire through one person's sacrifice. But the truth is, while it may undoubtedly be a happy ending for everyone else, why do I always feel like I've been abandoned by this world? It's as if everyone is telling me, the only place I belong is in that cold, lonely corner. If people can never see the hero again, don't you think the hero would be very lonely? Those were the words that came from Haley's mouth. She said that ending was wrong. She said heroes are ordinary people too, and that warmth should be shared between people. Baron felt Haley was truly a strange commoner. He looked up at the sky. Or perhaps, I'm the one who is strange. Early that morning, Haley went to the beach to comb for seafood and found quite a few octopuses. Though it was a bit far, the harvest was plentiful. Behind Haley, the flash firefly floated along. Even in broad daylight, the firefly was beautiful. They said it was just a bug, but to Haley it felt like a little soul accompanying her. Suddenly, Haley spotted another octopus, overturning a rock. Her expression froze. There was a black hole right there. Haley guessed that something like an octopus must live inside it. The next second, the flash firefly darted to Haley's side. Its expression seemed almost frantic. Its general message was clear, telling Haley not to touch the black hole. Since Haley had caught enough anyway, she decided it was time to head back. She left the area, but what Haley didn't know was that, after she left, dark energy began to emanate from that black hole. Meanwhile, on the other side, Baron slowly opened a book. No wonder Haley couldn't read its contents. It was a compendium written in an official language that had long been abandoned. Baron pulled out his quill. This book recorded the knowledge of beasts and monsters, accumulated by generations of emperors fighting since the First Empire. The record of strange beasts. It detailed investigations into beast species, manifestations of the gates, and mutations of creatures around the portals. To ensure that only members of the royal family could read it, it was written in a dead ancient language and securely stored in a vault. But when he set out for the north, he didn't leave it in the unsafe royal palace. Instead, he temporarily entrusted it to an inconspicuous used bookstore. Now that he was in Snorrel, it was the perfect opportunity to retrieve it. Suddenly, Baron noticed Haley had returned. He quickly hid his quill. "Sister, you worked hard." "I did. I went to the reefs further out today to dig for clams, and I caught quite a few octopuses there, too." A moment later, Baron followed her to work in the field. "Sister, you went out so early and now you're doing heavy labor right after coming back. Are you sure you're okay?" She told him it was fine. "Your sister is very strong." But when she brought the hoe down, she realized the soil was incredibly soft. She didn't know how, but it was so much easier to turn now. Baron smirked on the sidelines. "Looks like I'll have to call Carmen out from time to time to bring in some good soil." After 2.5 hours, she finally finished plowing the field. But there was still one more thing they needed to do. Right at that moment, however, it suddenly started pouring rain. With no other choice, she quickly took Baron inside, so he wouldn't catch a cold. But the rain was coming down hard today, and it showed no signs of stopping. Suddenly, they noticed an awkward problem. The ceiling was leaking. She needed to fix the roof immediately. She quickly grabbed a basin to catch the dripping water. Baron thought to himself, "Even the barracks up north where monsters run rampant aren't as dilapidated as this. How on earth does Haley manage to live here?" She told him they'd just have to make do for now, and that she'd start fixing the house as soon as she saved up some money. Baron looked around. It seemed like the whole house needed fixing. She chuckled. "Duke Jr., do you hear that? The water dripping actually has a nice rhythm to it. Doesn't it sound a bit like music?" Baron was completely caught off guard by her optimism. Haley was so cheerful. He asked her, "Don't you find living like this incredibly difficult? You work yourself to the bone every day, the roof leaks, and yet you laugh as if nothing is wrong. I'm just a little curious." "But I don't find it difficult at all. I feel very happy. As for this house, I just need to work hard, save up, and fix it. And the most important thing is, just having you here with me is enough. It's because you're by my side that I can smile and enjoy this life. Everyone faces tough times in life, but they all pass eventually. So it doesn't matter. We just have to wait for the hard days to turn into good days. As long as we overcome everything, the dark clouds will eventually clear." Right on cue, the sun broke through the clouds. "Look, Baron, the clouds are clearing. I figured it was just a passing shower. See, I was right. Good days are just like the sunshine. They always break through eventually." Baron was spellbound. "Baron, because you're by my side, everything feels so good." Baron slowly replied, "You're right, sister. I'm also very happy to be with you. I hope we can stay together forever." Just as she had said, the rainwater really did sound like elegant music. But she still felt she definitely needed to fix the house. Time flew, and it was soon noon. She was highly motivated today because she was having lunch with Mr. Raven. She had to pull out all the stops to host him properly. She completely missed Baron pouting behind her. Why is she treating him so well? She had prepared secret recipes for today, using a special main ingredient. First up were the clams she had soaked in salt water to spit out the sand. This was today's main dish. Next was the octopus she had caught that morning. Baron saw it and jumped in fright. "Why are we eating something so disgusting?" "Sister, why did you catch that? Normal people wouldn't eat something so creepy, would they?" She told him to go play and that she'd handle the kitchen herself today. She began to prepare in earnest. Baron wondered to himself, are we really going to eat that for lunch? What kind of dish is she going to make with that monster? Just looking at it made him nauseous. He didn't even want to touch it, let alone eat it. She started cleaning the octopus. Baron was startled, as the little creature immediately wrapped its tentacles around her hand. But she wasn't scared at all. This only freaked Baron out more. He dropped his book, rushed over and grabbed the octopus right off her hand. How dare you do that to her? Sister, this thing is disgusting! Get away! The room descended into an awkward silence. What are you doing? She asked. Baron looked frantic. Sister, are you okay? Is your arm all right? That octopus almost sucked you dry of blood. You're overthinking it. Aren't you overreacting a bit? Octopuses are usually just sticky like this. She had him come closer to see that it wasn't dangerous at all. You just need to wash the octopus thoroughly, remove the internal organs, and then wrap it around a stick. That's all the prep work. This was exactly the squid skewers she used to eat in her past life. Once Mr. Raven gets here, we can grill them. Baron seemed to overcome his mental hurdle. Wait, preparing this thing is actually that simple? Then leave it all to me. He definitely didn't want something so gross touching his sister. Baron grabbed the octopus, though he still found it a bit repulsive. Like a cat whose fur stood on end, he vigorously scrubbed the octopus in the bucket. After a few minutes of intense labor, he was panting, but at least it was clean. I guess besides being sticky, it's not that bad. Then he reached for the knife on the table. That terrified her. Baron, wait, knives are dangerous. But before she could finish with a few swift swish-swish sounds, the octopus was perfectly sliced. Baron even did a cool trick, spinning the knife in his hand. Sister, don't worry so much. I'm really good with a knife, see? Not dangerous at all. She was amazed. How could a child wield a knife so skillfully? Was it because he was destined to be the future commander of the Imperial Knights? Baron told her to prepare the rest of the dishes while he handled the octopus. Then, round 2, he went to war with the octopus again. After finishing all the prep, she grilled the octopus skewers. Everything was ready. They were just waiting for Lord Raven to arrive for lunch. Baron was amazed. He had never seen plates like these in his entire life. I haven't had a feast like this in so long, I'm almost crying from joy. Now they just needed Mr. Raven. But what happened next utterly shocked her. A bouquet of roses appeared right in front of her. Good afternoon, Lady Haley. Thank you for inviting me to lunch. As a token of my gratitude, I brought you some flowers. She absolutely loved the gift Raven gave her. This was the first time in her life she had ever received flowers. However, the romantic atmosphere caused a certain someone nearby to become intensely jealous. I can't believe giving her a few flowers made Haley this happy. Damn that Raven, Baron cursed internally. Her expression shifted slightly as she looked between Raven and Baron. Baron, have you grown taller these past few days? That was awfully fast. Baron brushed it off as her imagination, but she didn't think so. The last time they saw Raven, Baron only came up to his waist. Raven quickly covered for him. I was wearing heels that day. My shoes are different today. Although she was slightly confused about why Raven would wear heels, she didn't dwell on it. Since it wasn't the time for idle chatter, it was time to eat. Raven shot Baron a glance. We dodged a bullet this time, but His Majesty has definitely grown taller. Could his magic power be returning? Then came the meal. Raven had never seen such exquisite dishes, and even the way they were meant to be eaten was unique. It was time to dig in. Raven slowly took a spoonful of soup. The moment he swallowed, he froze. What is this flavor? This was a delicacy he had never tasted in his entire life. A broth made simply from clams and a few vegetables was impossibly delicious. The soup was rich, completely devoid of any fishy smell, and the clams themselves were plump, tender, and perfectly chewy. It was an indescribable, magical culinary experience. Looking at their expressions, she knew her cooking perfectly suited their tastes. They even forgot their aristocratic manners and began eating by the mouthful. Raven coughed dryly to mask his embarrassment. This flavor is absolutely astounding. I finished it before I even realized. Miss Haley, are you perhaps a professional chef? Next, she offered them the other side dish, the grilled octopus. Raven made the exact same face Baron had earlier. Why would she turn such a bizarre creature into a dish? She explained they were grilled octopus skewers. Hearing the word octopus, Raven lowered his head. He really didn't want to eat it. Baron chimed in. I helped too. I cleaned the octopus and wrapped it up. Raven was shocked. You don't find such a disgusting thing repulsive? She urged them to eat. It's actually really delicious. Everyone gets one skewer, you have to try it. I grilled these myself. But both of them seemed reluctant, yet unable to refuse her expectant gaze. They exchanged a look, seemingly making a shared resolution. Baron communicated with his eyes. You have to eat it for her. If you don't, there will be hell to pay when we get back. Raven understood the Emperor's intent perfectly. It seemed there was no escaping his fate today. In this country, Raven was an absolutely indispensable figure in the Lyphany Empire. He not only served the Emperor as his aide, but was also a contractor of the Death Knight, moving like a shadow by his side. Yet such a powerful man was now facing a difficult decision. It was no exaggeration to say he was facing the greatest crisis of his career as a Death Knight. He had to eat the squid skewer in his hand and react appropriately. As soon as he took a bite, the little Emperor immediately asked how it tasted. Raven paused for a moment, carefully analyzing the flavors in his mouth. This dish is truly a rarity in this world. I've never tasted anything like this in my entire life. The pure flavor of the fresh ingredients perfectly melds with the slightly sweet glaze on the outside. They complement each other, elevating the flavors to their absolute peak. As for the texture, it's tender yet possesses just the right amount of chewiness. It is an indescribable, wondrous taste experience. It's utterly delicious. Refusing it based on its appearance alone would be a massive tragedy. Hearing this, Baron thought, is it really that good? He took a bite as well, and his expression instantly froze. Sister, how on earth did you make something so delicious? She encouraged Baron to eat more. I have plenty left. Mr. Raven included. If it's not enough, I'll make more. Raven wanted to eat more, but didn't want to trouble her. Yet, he couldn't resist such a delicacy. Strangely, after eating her cooking, Raven felt his body recovering in a bizarre way, making him crave even more. During their casual conversation, Raven learned that Baron actually helped with chores every day. He carried groceries when shopping and folded laundry when they got back. Hearing his sister praise him so highly, Baron couldn't help but smile, while shooting a glaring look at Raven. Is the Emperor not allowed to do chores? If you dare laugh, I'll end you. She kept piling on the praise for Baron. A few days ago, Baron even caught a flash firefly for me. That bug is really smart. It feels like a little soul lives inside it. When I walk around, it follows right beside me. When I came across a weird black hole the other day, the bug desperately stopped me from going near it. That hole was really strange. The edges glowed with a dark blue light. It was about 30 centimeters across and oval-shaped. Upon hearing this, Baron and Raven's expressions instantly turned serious. Baron asked her to tell him more about the hole and exactly where it was located. It turned out the hole was a derivative portal. If they didn't investigate it thoroughly, this area would be in grave danger. Raven had to pretend he didn't know what it was, advising her not to touch unknown things carelessly, as she could easily get hurt. He then thanked her profusely for hosting him with such an incredible meal. As a merchant, I've traveled across many countries, but this is the first time I've ever tasted flavors like these. Little did he know, her cooking was strictly amateur compared to the high-end restaurants from her past life. Speaking of your travels, Mr. Raven, that reminds me of something. I wonder if you might be able to answer a question for me. Raven told her to go ahead. As long as it's not too obscure, I generally know about it. She asked if he had ever seen a specific crest, a sun embracing a crescent moon, with a star embedded inside the moon. Raven pondered this. The sun, crescent, and star symbols were from the dream she had, but she couldn't remember which country's crest it was. Raven couldn't recall clearly either, but he felt he had seen it somewhere before. Hearing this, she was a bit disappointed, but Raven promised to look into it, as a thank you for the dinner. As soon as he finished speaking, Baron shoved him out the door. Inside, Baron complained, Sister, I actually wasn't very happy today. I think that guy has ulterior motives toward you. Baron, keep your voice down. He can hear you. Raven smiled and walked away. The food was indeed delicious, but he noticed a problem. He felt entirely unsatisfied with the meal because the little Emperor's glares were practically lethal daggers. Eating had become an exhausting chore. Raven had essentially treated the meal like a mission. Late that night, Raven met Baron at the beach. Baron noted that once Haley fell asleep, she wasn't easily woken. She doesn't seem dense, but sometimes she's surprisingly oblivious. Raven told Baron to be careful. Your height was almost discovered this time. Hearing Haley's discovery today, Raven found it highly concerning. Did you really withdraw the undead army you summoned? Baron certainly hadn't. He also found it strange. Lately, his magic power was recovering incredibly fast, and his physical condition was inexplicably good. At this rate, he would return to his original form very soon. A moment later, they arrived at the spot she had mentioned earlier that day. Baron immediately summoned a flash firefly to his side and ordered it to lead them to the black hole they had discovered. With a whoosh, the flash firefly zipped off. Along the way, they discussed the progress of the kidnapping case. Raven hadn't been able to find any useful testimonies, and the descriptions they received didn't match anyone they could track down. Baron nodded in understanding. Baron had been passing through a nearby village after receiving reports of victory at the North Gate, when he happened upon a severely injured child. The child claimed that Snorrel had recently been plagued by kidnappings, specifically targeting orphans like him. Baron had personally gone to Snorrel to investigate, which unexpectedly led to his encounter with Haley. He then handed the investigation over to Raven. That was the current status. Days had passed, yet Raven and his team hadn't found a single lead. Just as the Emperor was voicing his dissatisfaction, the flash firefly blinked a few times, signaling for them to come quickly. Raven inspected it closely and determined it was absolutely a derivative portal connected to the main gate. It seems it's grown larger than when Miss Haley saw it. Could there be monsters lurking nearby? Baron didn't think so. If there were, Ignis would have sensed them and sent me a signal. Sister also returned safely from here. The portal in the northern mountains was also known as the main gate. Some of the monsters pouring from the main gate scattered across the empire, creating what were known as derivative portals. Initially, they were only about the size of a fingertip, but over time, they expanded enough to allow several monsters through. These derivative portals connected directly to the main gate, and as they expanded, the threat level would become unimaginably dangerous. At that moment, the calm surface of the sea suddenly experienced a massive tremor. The vibration jolted her awake from her deep sleep. She sat up in a panic, looking around. What just happened? Was that an earthquake? She turned to wake Baron up, only to realize he wasn't there. She was deeply confused. Where would Baron go this late at night? A sense of dread grew in her heart. Could Baron have been snatched by kidnappers? Now Raven wanted to destroy the black hole before it grew any larger. Raven suggested removing the portal as the best course of action. But the young Emperor stopped him. Baron wanted to burn off some magic power to reduce his height back to a child's, so he decided to handle this portal himself. In the next instant, a black magic sword materialized in Baron's hand. Raven thought removing this portal is optimal. Why expend so much magic power? Baron drove the sword directly into the black hole and began violently funneling his magic into it. By forcefully injecting magic into a derivative portal until it was completely saturated, the internal space would twist and collapse, causing the portal to vanish. It sounded simple, but it required a colossal amount of magic power. Therefore, aside from the Emperor or those with highly specialized abilities, it was an impossible feat for a normal person. Soon, the derivative portal shattered. Baron patted his head. After expelling that magic, he realized he had indeed shrunk significantly. He then ordered Carmen to inspect the area for any other derivative portals and to patrol the region regularly to ensure safety. Just then, the remnants of the destroyed portal triggered a massive tremor. It felt exactly like a severe earthquake. Whoosh! The flash firefly was the first to react, instantly darting toward the house. Baron was confused at first, but then it hit him. Could my sister have woken up? Raven agreed. Miss Haley might truly be awake. Baron worried that if she found him missing, she'd be terrified. He ordered Raven, from now on, if another portal like this appears, you destroy it. Moments later, they spotted her, pacing frantically outside the shack. Screaming Baron's name, Baron's heart ached. Sister, I'm right here. The moment she saw Baron, her heart finally settled. Where did you go? Are you hurt? The earthquake woke me up, and when you weren't beside me, I was terrified. Baron paused for a second before coming up with an excuse. He said he had gone to use the bathroom, but when the earthquake hit, he panicked and went next door to ask Mr. Raven for help. Raven corroborated, saying his construction was nearly finished, so he was staying by the beach. No matter what happened, as long as I see that you're safe and sound, I'm satisfied. Before I found you, I was so worried. It was terrifying, Baron. I'm just so glad you're okay. Baron apologized to her, but she praised him instead. You did the right thing. If something like this happens again, always look for a trusted adult nearby. Raven was momentarily stunned. The Emperor, who never backed down even when facing thousands of monsters, actually showed such an expression when someone cared for him this deeply. She stood up and thanked Raven for looking after her Baron. Thankfully, the earthquake didn't cause any major damage, and they went back to bed. Meanwhile, in a lavishly decorated room far away, a girl slowly woke up. Of all the seeds, that one just had to germinate at dawn and ruin my sleep. She opened her satchel to check and saw that seed number 8 had shattered. She then opened a map to check where she had planted seed number 8. She quickly located it. Snorl. Could he have gone there to solve the kidnapping case? If so, if I go there, will I be able to see him? This girl was Nilo Kallet, the first princess of the Kallet kingdom. A wicked cackle escaped her lips. Just wait for me a little longer, my dear male lead. It turned out she was a transmigrator just like Haley. In the Empire year 867, this was Nilo's first day of rebirth. She had been living an ordinary life in the modern world before suddenly dying and waking up in the body of this kingdom's princess. When she heard her new name, she instantly knew the princess was currently committing financial fraud, and that the story was about 10 years away from starting. According to the plot, the female lead wasn't her. It was Princess Robina of the Dylan Kingdom, a nation that had been at war with Kallet for years. That princess actually had the audacity to attempt financial fraud on the male lead and then run away. But that wasn't the point. The point was, why was she just a side character? 6 months after her rebirth, Nilo heard a rumor that a grimoire of demonic power was hidden beneath the Kallet royal palace. They said the book explained derivative portals and how to create them. When the power was used, it generated a magical seed and a signal stone. If you planted that seed, a derivative portal would form, slowly expanding over time, until it became a passageway for monsters. The Kallet royal family had guarded this book for generations to prevent evil forces from using it. Nilo thought these people were idiots. Why wouldn't they use such a convenient tool? In her first year, Nilo saw a portrait of the male lead. From that moment until now, one thought constantly haunted her. Why couldn't the female lead be me? Later, Nilo heard that the Empire's regent, Anna Beldenbra, was seeking a princess to become the future empress. If the plot progressed as written, Robina would eventually become empress. The mere thought of it tied Nilo's stomach in knots. But thinking about it, why did she have to follow the original story? She could just rewrite the plot. Everyone only knew how derivative portals formed naturally. No one would suspect they were created by humans, much less by a princess like Nilo. Kallet was already at war with that country anyway, so what was wrong with wiping out an enemy nation? Nilo made a decision. As long as she wasn't caught, it would be fine. She planned to use the book. In her 4th year, taking advantage of the chaos caused by the monsters, the Kallet army invaded and achieved a crushing victory. In the sudden ambush, all the royal family members and high-ranking nobles were slaughtered, including the original female lead, Robina. That is what you get. You shouldn't have been born a princess in the first place, Nilo thought. Since things had progressed this far, Nilo decided to uproot every single threat. She would become the sole princess in the entire empire. Beneath Nilo's foot lay a crest with wings. Only by becoming the one and only princess could she end up with the male lead. Time flew, and a while later, Nilo personally traveled to Baron's country. But she didn't even get to see him. It turned out he had gone to the North Gate to suppress the magical beasts. Rumor had it he intended to completely eradicate any possibility of future incidents before returning. This was outrageous. The Princess of Kallet had traveled all this way just to see the Crown Prince, and they were going to leave the future Empress stranded here? But a discussion downstairs caught Nilo's attention. If I plant a derivative portal exactly where I want it, doesn't that mean I can track Baron's location? The realization thrilled her. She couldn't understand why the Kallet royal family never utilized such a convenient power and had kept it sealed away. The person who destroyed that portal was definitely the male lead. He's getting closer. This is my whole reason for living in this world. She had spent 10 years preparing to become Baron's female lead. She was truly a quintessential villainess. Now both of them were around 18 years old, meaning they were approaching marriageable age. Nilo ordered a maid into her room. Tell the regent I will see her at dawn. Make preparations. I will be departing for Snorl in a few days. The prospect of finding Baron's location made Nilo so excited she couldn't sleep. She just wished time would move faster. Meanwhile, Haley was at the market planning to sell the sea snails she had caught today to the stall owner. Fish was pretty cheap today, so she planned to buy some to take back and grill. Just then, Baron overheard a conversation behind him. "I heard the fruit vendor's daughter hasn't been found yet. A lot of kids have gone missing from the streets lately." Baron immediately connected this to the kidnapping case. It seemed the kidnappers were still active, just like when Baron had first arrived. He wondered if he should use himself as bait again to draw them out. Suddenly, the stall owner yelled, "Oh my God, Peter!" A man then crashed hard into Haley, knocking all her fresh sea snails to the ground. Baron immediately rushed over, asking, "Sister, are you okay? I'm fine." "Wasn't that Uncle Ben? What was he rushing off for?" Uncle Ben yelled, "Peter, right? If I remember correctly, Peter is his son." The crowd began to chatter. Had Peter been kidnapped too? She looked at the stall owner in disbelief. Was Uncle Ben's son kidnapped? A few hours prior, Haley had gone to Raven's house, asking him to look after Baron. She claimed she had an emergency and needed to leave home for a bit. Naturally, Raven agreed. But Haley had another request. "If I don't return before dawn, please report this to the city guards or the local lord's knights." Raven was stunned. "Miss Haley, what do you mean?" Haley didn't elaborate, only mentioning it was a tavern called the Air Supply Tavern. "It's an emergency, so I'm counting on you." Haley had no choice but to rely on Raven. She gently patted Baron's back. "While your sister is away, you must listen to Mr. Raven, okay?" Seeing Haley so resolute, Baron couldn't stop her. But consumed by worry, he secretly followed her. Though he wasn't entirely sure, Baron had already guessed something serious was happening. Haley arrived at the tavern's entrance and gently knocked on the door. The moment she pushed it open, every man inside turned to look at her. A man with a buzz cut scowled. "What? We aren't taking customers today." Haley spoke smoothly. "Hello. I'm the new employee starting today." The buzz-cut man looked back at his staff. "Did you guys hire someone without telling us?" The staff member was just as confused, having never conducted an interview. The men didn't want to deal with Haley, assuming she had walked into the wrong place for work. "Waiter, 2 more mugs of beer," a patron shouted. Haley sprang into action. She immediately grabbed 2 mugs of beer from the bartender and carried them over. "Coming right up. Here are your beers." "Who else needs a refill? I'll bring it right over." Who could resist that smile? The men's faces flushed slightly. Outside, Baron and Raven were quietly listening to the commotion. Baron looked at Raven in utter confusion. "Why do you look so bewildered?" Baron peeked through the window to look inside. "Your Majesty, where exactly was Miss Haley working before she came here?" Raven asked. Inside, Haley tapped a glass. And like dominoes, a row of shot glasses cascaded perfectly into a line of beer mugs. The crowd erupted in cheers, amazed by the trick. She then showed off more of the flair bartending skills she had learned working part-time at a bar in her past life, and the men loved it. Outside, the two were dumbfounded. They had never seen such a technique. Ever since the first time Raven tasted her skewers, he had a gut feeling that this woman was anything but ordinary. Baron couldn't deny it either. But Baron was certain this was all part of her plan, because he believed in Haley. Haley's mixed drinks were incredibly popular. Unbeknownst to them, the alcohol concentration in the drinks she mixed was twice as high as usual. And conveniently, the tavern owner had briefly stepped out. Having chugged so many strong cocktails, there was no way they were sobering up anytime soon. She began feeling along the walls for a mechanism. If she guessed correctly, it should be right around here. She flipped open a picture frame and found a switch underneath. Without hesitation, she pressed it, and a secret passage opened before her. It was exactly as described in the novel, a hidden mechanism on the staircase. If she followed this secret passage, she would reach the place where they were holding the children. But just then, a hand reached out to grab her. It was a bald man who had been sitting at a table, staring at her the entire time. "What do you think you're doing, woman?" She quickly tried to explain. "You misunderstand." But her excuse was incredibly weak, given that she had just opened a secret passage. "I knew there was something off about you. How did you know there was a secret passage here?" Panic gripped her heart. She absolutely could not get caught here. She had to rescue the children and escape immediately. In the next instant, she forcefully kicked the bald man in the groin. He short-circuited for a second before pain racked his body. She immediately turned and bolted for the secret passage. The bald man's screams sobered up the rest of the men. He ordered everyone to catch her. This woman is incredibly dangerous. She tried to flee, but the exit was already blocked, and someone was closing in behind her. He pressed a rag soaked in chloroform over her nose and mouth, suffocating her. Outside the window, Raven and Baron witnessed everything. They were shocked, but Baron knew this couldn't continue. He had to save Haley. The rational Raven tried to stop him. "Your Majesty, no. If we intervene now, they will notice us. We followed them all the way here. It is best to wait and see." Seeing her restrained, while he was forced to stand outside watching, made Baron furious. She struggled weakly before going completely limp. Seeing her in that state shattered the young emperor's last shred of reason. The man inside announced, "The woman is out cold. Let's just lock her in the basement." The bald man ordered them to double padlock her and tie her up tight. This woman is no joke. Suddenly, a wisp of purple smoke drifted into the room. The window near the door shattered. The men stared in shock as Baron's figure slowly walked toward them. Their first thought was that a kid had escaped from the basement. But someone noticed Baron came from the window. "Get lost, you little brat," one of them cursed. Little did he know this little brat was the emperor of the nation. "I will only say this once, take your hands off her." But Baron didn't even give the man a chance to comply. He manifested a blade of magic in his hand. In the blink of an eye, the man's arm was severed. Without the man supporting her, her body began to fall. Baron dashed forward and caught her, gently lowering her to the floor. "Haley, wake up! Can you hear me?" The young emperor was genuinely panicked. He was terrified that Haley might never wake up. Her head lolled to the side. That completely broke the young emperor's sanity. His eyes filled with murderous intent. Did Sister Haley die? "You scoundrels have committed an unforgivable sin. Die, all of you! You will pay for her life." A massive surge of magic erupted from his body. Raven was horrified. The entire room was flooded with the Emperor's overflowing magic power. Sustaining that level of output would put an immense physical strain on his body. Baron softly uttered 3 words. "Come forth, Kamaris." From the cracks in the floorboards, a shadow seeped out. The shadow gradually took human form and bowed deeply. Kamaris answers His Majesty's summons. "Please, give me your orders, Your Majesty." Baron slowly stood up. "Crow, Kamaris, listen to me very carefully. Every word I say now is an absolute order. There will be no defiance, no objections, and no opinions. Erase them all." Given a direct, absolute order, the two knew exactly what they had to do. "Yes, Your Majesty." "Your will shall be obeyed." Mr. Raven finally put on his gloves, something he hadn't done in a long time. "This is the command of our liege. Therefore we shall personally teach you a lesson, one by one." The kidnappers in the tavern had no idea what was happening. What were these 2 things? And that woman would wake up as soon as she drank the antidote? Why blow things out of proportion? Some of the smarter ones realized the situation was dire and tried to slip away. But before they could even turn around, Kamaris teleported behind one of them. "I haven't had a chance to stretch my limbs properly in a long time. Perfect timing for a workout." In a single clash, Kamaris killed the man. The others were too terrified to move. Meanwhile, Raven grabbed another man. "Stop right there. I will give you exactly 1 chance. Tell me where the antidote to wake Lady Haley is." Raven had vastly overestimated their loyalty. The man broke in 0.1 seconds. "Wait, please, we were wrong. It's all our fault." After securing the antidote, Raven snapped his fingers and finished them off. Baron stayed by her side, constantly calling her name, desperate for her to wake up. "It's all my fault. I never should have let you take such a risk alone. Even though I followed you, this still happened." His eyes were filled with tenderness. "Haley, I was too careless." Baron blamed himself endlessly. If he had intervened sooner, none of this would have happened. Just then, her fingers twitched, and she slowly opened her eyes. Baron was overjoyed. "Sister, you're finally awake." Her first thought upon waking was utter confusion. Why was Baron here? And why was he hugging her? He immediately buried his face in her chest. "Sister, I'm so happy you woke up." Haley looked around, utter baffled by what had happened. She came to the tavern to save the kids, but the chaotic scene before her was beyond imagination. Just to be safe, she had left Baron with Raven. "Why are you here?" she asked, holding him. Baron said he was too worried. "Sister, you just left me behind. I couldn't stop worrying, so I asked Mr. Raven if I could follow you, and you came to such a dangerous place. I don't have any family. I'm all alone." If something happened to you, what would I do? I'd be a true orphan. Could you really bear to leave me? His words, which sounded almost like a confession, tugged at Haley's heart. Looking closely, she saw his hands were trembling. She could imagine how anxious he must have been. If something happened to her, Baron would be left alone in the world, with no one to cook for him or protect him. She hadn't even thought of that. I'm sorry, Baron. I was too careless. I promise I will never leave you. Baron nodded. Then let's pinky swear. We promise never to abandon each other. Now that she was his sole guardian, she had to take on adult responsibilities and stay by his side. So she linked pinkies with Baron and promised never to abandon him. I'll never run off alone and leave you behind again. Please forgive me this time. The surviving kidnappers were confused. Theoretically, drinking the antidote shouldn't wake someone up that quickly. How did she do it? Raven, thoroughly disgusted by the kidnappers, flicked one on the forehead. If you don't speak, no one will think you're mute. At first, Raven thought Haley was just an ordinary countrywoman. But as more anomalies surfaced, he realized she was anything but simple. Raven made a decision. For His Majesty's sake, he needed to thoroughly investigate Haley's background. After promising Baron, she finally got her bearings. She looked at the stranger beside them. Mr. Raven, who is this handsome young man? Raven explained that he had hired a mercenary to accompany him, just in case. Oh, so he was a mercenary. No wonder he was so strong. He was ridiculously overpowered. But the name Kimaris. She felt like she had heard it somewhere before. Then it hit her. It was the name of a character in the novel. He was one of the male lead Broden's top commanders, known for his absolute, unquestioning loyalty. He was described as a giant beast of a man, with an incredibly gloomy personality. That description had left a deep impression on her. But looking closely at the man named Kimaris standing before her, with his bright, cheerful smile, she knew he was absolutely not the character from the book. Plus, the real Kimaris should be fighting monsters with Broden right now. There's no way he'd be in this small town. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Haley. But the little jealous emperor's jealousy flared up again. How long is this damn Kimaris going to hold her hand? Kimaris broke out in a cold sweat. Did His Majesty just glare at me? Raven asked why she came to such a dangerous place alone. She panicked, desperately trying to formulate an excuse in her head. I happened to find some clues about the kidnapping case. The kidnappers disguised themselves as staff and patrons in a tavern to set up a hideout. They dug a secret passage to use as their main route, and the entrance is right here. If you pull the switch behind this painting, the passage opens. Follow it, and you'll find where they're keeping the kids. As for why they were kidnapping kids, they were taking orders from a mastermind. But she couldn't just casually blurt that out. She couldn't explain how she knew it naturally, so she couldn't mention it at all. When Raven saw her freeze, he called her name. She quickly explained, When I heard Uncle Ben's son was kidnapped, I wanted to help, so I came here to gather information. Rumors always spread fast in taverns. While working here, I accidentally discovered the passage. Looking at the hidden passage, Raven guessed the kids were down there. He remembered the kidnappers saying something about a kid escaping when they saw him. This place was definitely connected to the kidnappings. If they interrogated them, they'd get to the bottom of it. But since everyone was knocked out, they couldn't be interrogated. There was only one option left, go down and check it out personally. Seeing Baron start walking down, she tried to stop him. It was too dangerous. But Baron insisted, It's fine. We have to rescue the kids as quickly as possible. And I can't stay up here with all these men. That feels even more dangerous. She glanced at the kidnappers. They were indeed dangerous. She couldn't leave Baron here. Plus, if things went south down below, she could shield him with her body. So she took Baron with her into the underground passage. The end of this tunnel should be where the kids were locked up. Please let them be okay. I'm coming to save you. When Haley and the group reached the basement, Kimaris noted that it was like a maze with many intersections. The guards here matched the novel's description, just a few grown men. Haley had a bad feeling. Had the kids already been moved? Kimaris opened a large iron door, only to find the room completely empty. Her heart sank, just as she feared the kids were gone. The sharp-eyed Baron spotted a hairpin on the floor. Based on this clue, Raven concluded they had definitely been here. They just didn't know where the kids had been transferred to. Originally, the syndicate had many members, but Haley had only seen a handful on the way in. Looking at the small footprints on the ground, there were definitely more than a couple of kids. Perhaps the others had already taken the kids and left. Haley wondered how they could transport a large group of kids to another region without being noticed. This part wasn't written in the novel. If she were the culprit, what would she do? A mode of transportation that can move many kids at once without detection. The image of a ship suddenly popped into her head. To move the kids far away secretly, that was the only logical option. She turned to Raven immediately. Do you know if any ships are scheduled to leave port today? Raven recalled, I believe a sailing ship is scheduled to depart at dawn. If I remember correctly, it's heading toward Baron Ailes' territory. Just as she suspected. That ship was definitely the one. They had to get to the docks immediately. After a while, they finally arrived at the docks. They spotted the men preparing to depart, looking incredibly anxious. This is bad, she thought. She was planning to sneak aboard and quickly rescue the kids, but they're already preparing to cast off. Raven was also unsure of what to do. Forcing their way in would put them at a disadvantage. But suddenly they spotted them. Kimara stepped up beside her. Miss, leave this to us. You go board the ship. There are so many of them. Are you sure you'll be okay? Kimaris waved it off. Don't worry. I only need one finger to deal with third-rate thugs like these. The kidnappers, referred to as third-rate thugs, were furious. We've been living on the edge of a blade for over a decade, and you call us third-rate? An eye-patch-wearing man lost his temper. What the hell are you babbling about, you blonde brat? He charged at Kamaris to teach him a lesson. But with just a glare, Kamaris proved he was actually overestimating them. In his eyes, these kidnappers didn't even qualify as street thugs. With a single punch, he sent the man flying through the air, crashing heavily into his accomplices. Kamaris smirked. I told you not to worry, Miss Haley. The commotion drew the attention of a large group of kidnappers. Kamaris told them to hurry onto the ship and save the kids, while Raven stayed behind to help. She was still worried, but the kids were the priority. She told them to be careful and left it in their hands. Let's go, Baron. Her only focus now was getting those kids out of the tiger's den as fast as possible. She quickly slipped inside the ship's cabin. There were no guards on deck and no sign of the kids, which left only the lower decks. Just then, she kicked a heavy glass bottle. She picked it up. It was quite sturdy and would make a decent makeshift weapon. But right at that moment, Baron's eyes widened in shock. A man behind her was raising a sword to strike. She was completely oblivious to the danger creeping up on her. In a flash, Baron's eyes turned crimson, and he summoned a magic blade in his hand. With a whoosh, he struck the man square in the forehead. The thud caught her attention. She was genuinely confused as to why a man was lying there. How weird. Does he like sleeping on the floor? Baron chimed in. He must have gotten dead drunk and passed out in the hallway. She noticed a large ring of keys on him. She didn't know what they were for, but she figured she should take them just in case. They continued deeper into the ship. She spotted a frying pan, thinking it would make a much better weapon than the bottle. Suddenly, Baron's internal alarm went off again, his eyes flashing red. He tossed a magic blade, striking another man right in the head. Baron acted as her silent bodyguard, taking out all the kidnappers while she remained completely unaware, just walking around looking for weapons. Finally, fully armed with makeshift weapons, she prepared to rescue the kids. Then she heard children crying. That voice, there was no mistaking it. It was coming from where they were being held. She told Baron to hurry. They had found them. When they got there, she saw a group of kids locked in a cage. She quickly rushed over. Are you all locked in here? Are there any others somewhere else? A girl said no. They were all here. The bad men locked us in and said they were going to sell us. Please, sister, can you save us? She focused on the padlock. Good thing she picked up those keys earlier. After a few tries, the iron door finally swung open. She told the kids to hurry out. I'm here now, you don't need to be afraid. I'll make sure every single one of you gets back safely. You'll get to see your moms and dads again. She was overjoyed. Everyone was safe and no one looked hurt. But then the girl who spoke earlier pulled on her sleeve. Sister, where should I go? You should go home, she said. But she replied that she didn't have anywhere to go. Her parents had passed away. She froze. Was her situation the same as Baron's? Why did this plot development feel so familiar? After Haley rescued the children, Uncle Ben was finally reunited with his son. The family expressed immense gratitude to Haley, and even Raven praised her incredible capabilities. If it weren't for you, Miss Haley, we never would have found those children. I will never forget this favor. With this rescue, Haley became a local hero. Seeing the rescued kids safe and sound brought Haley great comfort. After a long, exhausting day, she felt it was worth it. When Haley first arrived in town, the stall owner had ripped her off, and everyone treated her like an outsider. But after this incident, she finally felt integrated into the village. The next problem was what to do with the orphans. A woman named Linda appeared behind Haley. "Hello, I am Linda, dispatched from the local administration office. Thank you for your immense help in cracking this case. The kidnappers will be punished according to protocol. Children with known identities will be returned to their families. As for the others with nowhere to go, processing them into the orphanage will take some time. Until the paperwork is finalized, we need someone to temporarily shelter them. These kids had just been rescued from criminals. How could they be sent to a facility that hadn't even been inspected?" In the crowd, 2 children looked toward Haley. When they heard they were being sent to an orphanage, their eyes dimmed. It was exactly how Baron had reacted. Initially, she had planned to send Baron to the orphanage too. But after seeing the horrible treatment the kids there suffered, she couldn't just abandon him. That was why she decided to take responsibility. She truly cared about these kids, but she couldn't afford to raise all of them alone. Baron noticed her reaction. She turned to Linda. "Why don't you let me take care of them? Rather than handing them over to strangers, I'd rather look after them myself." Baron had not expected her to make such a proposal. Night fell quickly. Baron pinched his nose. He couldn't sleep at all. Having so many kids crammed into one room was incredibly smelly. They had been locked in an underground cage with no chance to bathe. Plus, after everything that happened today, the kids were exhausted, so there was no time to wash up. Baron actually admired her a bit. Haley is amazing. How can she sleep so peacefully in this environment? And even in her sleep, she looked beautiful. Staring at her, he became somewhat entranced. She's so beautiful and so kind-hearted. How is she supposed to survive in this cruel world? Tonight, Haley had intended to give the bed to the kids, but Baron strongly objected, so the bed remained hers. Baron was worried. Is Haley really going to live with these kids without any plan? She can barely feed herself, let alone kids whose backgrounds we know nothing about. Even if they are just kids, that kidnapping ring was massive and highly organized. What if one of them is a mole working with the kidnappers? Baron glanced at a child in the corner. He looked cute enough, exactly the type to easily deceive a kind-hearted person. The others were the same. Baron sighed. How can I be suspecting kids who were just kidnapped? Maybe I should go outside for some fresh air. Just as Baron was about to get out of bed, a voice stopped him. "Hey, Brat, are you getting up? I want to sleep next to Sister, too. If you're getting out of bed, hurry up. It's not fair that you get to sleep next to her all by yourself." Baron was dumbfounded. The audacity. You steal my room and now you want to steal my sister? Is there something wrong with your head? Are you really only 10 years old? Baron bared his imaginary fangs like a cat fiercely guarding its food. Absolutely not. You just stay on the floor like a good boy. The kid clearly saw Baron was furious, but he wasn't bothered at all. He just thought Baron was being stingy. Baron didn't want to waste his breath on him, nor did he want to go outside anymore. He'd just stay right there in bed and guard his sister. She was way too relaxed. She actually let a bunch of kids trick her. From now on, I can't let my guard down for a single second. With that mindset, the next morning arrived. She made a simple breakfast for the kids. But there wasn't nearly enough to go around. She had to go out and catch more seafood soon, so she asked the kids to endure it for a bit. Baron came over and scraped all his food into her bowl. "Sister, hurry and eat this. I'm not that hungry today. This is for you. You have to go work soon, so you need to be full. And since I gave it to you, don't give it to anyone else. You have to eat it all yourself, okay?" Her heart swelled with emotion. Her little firecracker has finally grown up and knows how to care for his sister. However, this scene was witnessed by the kid from last night. Baron didn't even need to turn his head to notice the stare. He shot the kid a warning glare. "Behave yourself. As long as we're around Haley, I'm not giving an inch." The kid seemed entirely unfazed, continuing to eat as if Baron didn't even exist, completely ignoring the fierce glare. That morning, Haley planned to leave Baron in charge of all the kids. Baron wasn't thrilled. He wanted to go with her. But Haley patiently explained, "We need someone to stay behind and host our guests. Until the kids go back, could our Baron be the man of the house and help Sister share the load? You are the only Baron I can trust." Hit by this triple combo of persuasion, plus Haley's beautiful smile, Baron was completely knocked out. Sister is the only person who says she can rely on me. I have no choice. Leave it all to me. Be careful out there, sister. With that, Haley left. Next up, as the second in command, Baron had to take care of the little ones. He had to assume responsibility and wash all their clothes. He was now a very reliable landlord. Baron unleashed his full strength, effortlessly scrubbing the clothes clean. His hands moved so fast they were a blur. The other kids were stunned they couldn't even track his movements. But what shocked Baron was that the kid behind him was also washing clothes and completely matching his pace. His hand speed was even faster than Baron's, washing socks as an afterthought. He shot Baron a smug look. The two boys locked into a fierce, all-out competition. After half a day of exhausting work, they were both wiped out. If any kid found a hole in their clothes later, it was definitely caused by this intense scrubbing war. Didn't expect a little guy like you to be so strong. I heard your sister call you Baron. I'm Kyle, 12 years old. How old are you, Baron? Baron completely ignored him. He is so shameless. I can't even be bothered to humor him. Kyle demanded Baron call him Big Brother, since he was older, pointing out they'd be living under the same roof from now on. But Baron didn't recall Haley formally allowing them to stay. Kyle declared, even if sister hasn't officially nodded yet, as long as I handle all the heavy and tiring chores, she definitely won't have the heart to kick me out. Give me a little time, and I'll prove I'm way more useful than you. This infuriated Baron. He is quite tall for his age. He might actually end up staying. Baron grabbed his hand for a handshake. You might have misunderstood something. Sister doesn't measure a child's value by how useful they are. If you have the energy to spout this nonsense, you should just do more chores. As he spoke, Baron quietly squeezed his hand with immense force. The pain was excruciating for Kyle. Let go of me right now. When Baron released him, Kyle fell flat on his butt. Kyle was shocked. How does a little brat have so much grip strength? He was in so much pain, he almost cried. Baron looked incredibly smug. If you want to live here, you need my permission. Otherwise, no chance. However, this interaction was noticed by the other kids. They saw Kyle crying and figured Baron was the one who made him cry. Many of the kids thought Baron was out of line. Even Baron thought so himself. I'm the emperor of this nation, and I just made a 12-year-old cry. When Haley returned, she heard about the incident. She asked the kids for the full story, but they couldn't clearly explain who was at fault. Baron and Kyle started arguing again, bickering endlessly. Quiet, she said. She asked the other kids to go play outside for a bit. Then she needed to properly discipline these two rascals. Baron was confused about why she brought in two chairs. These are thinking chairs, she explained. From where I'm standing, both of you did something wrong. So I need you to sit here, quietly hold hands, look out the window, and think about what you did wrong. After that, we'll have a proper talk. Naturally, neither of them wanted to do it, which she fully expected. But that's exactly what the thinking chair is for. You must think, why am I sitting here? What impolite thing did I do to be punished like this? It's a place to sit and reflect on what happened. You're good boys. You'll listen to me, right? Reluctantly, the two sat down together and held hands. Suddenly, she noticed Mr. Raven shaking behind her. The scene was incredibly amusing to him. The dignified emperor of the empire getting into a petty argument with a child. No one would believe this if he told them. Raven coughed dryly. I have a bit of a cough lately. Please ignore me. But Baron didn't buy it for a second. That bastard is definitely laughing at me. Raven quickly covered for himself. Actually, I came because I have something to discuss regarding the case. I just happened to walk in on this. Hearing Raven say this, she knew she had to prioritize business. She told the two boys to go outside while they talked. But Baron refused to leave. He wanted to hear exactly what Raven had to say. Raven pulled out a package. Before we talk business, I have something for you. Inside were an array of exquisite pastries. The dinner from the other night had left a deep impression on him, and he wanted to return the favor. So he brought these delicious treats as a gift. He also asked if she could teach him a few recipes in return. Naturally, she agreed. Wow, macarons, eclairs, and madeleines. Can I share some of these with the kids outside? Both Raven and Baron froze. Sure, you can share them, but the real question is, how does she know the names of these pastries? They were full of questions. What do you mean, how do I know? It turned out that the pastries Raven brought were delicacies only the aristocracy could afford. Commoners usually didn't even know their names. She realized she had messed up. Did she slip up? This was knowledge from her past life, but she had blurted it out casually. She awkwardly covered her mouth. Right. How do I know that? I don't really remember. After all, I lost my memory. Hearing that she had amnesia, the two were stunned. But she couldn't exactly tell them she woke up inside a novel. So she explained, I must have been in a terrible accident and I lost my memory. When I woke up, I was just here. I don't even remember who I am or what kind of person I was. I only know my name is Haley because the villagers called me that. Raven knew the story of how she found Baron, but he was amazed that even amidst that chaos, she still took in the Emperor. Raven had also heard about what she saw at the orphanage. He informed her that the paperwork at the office was mostly finished. The children will be sent to the Snorrel orphanage today. However, I plan to transfer them to an orphanage in the capital as quickly as possible. This put her at ease. An orphanage in the capital would be vastly superior to one in a small village. The kids would be much better cared for there. Not long after, a voice called from outside. We are from the city hall. Is Baron Dylan June here? She was shocked. Who was Baron Dylan June? But to her surprise, Raven stepped forward and confirmed it was him. She knew he wasn't just an ordinary merchant. This was unbelievable. He was actually a noble. The official said the paperwork was finalized and she was here to pick up the kids. However, there is one thing I must inform you of. That boy with the black hair and green eyes, Kyle. He is the surviving orphan of the Freddage noble family, which was exterminated 2 years ago. That's when they learned Kyle was the surviving heir of a slaughtered noble house. But that wasn't the most important part. The official continued, Kyle Freddage currently has an active bounty on his head. Hearing this, she panicked. Baron too wore an expression of shock. The Freddage family had long been vassals of the Utra border Marquis. Not long ago, Lord Freddage did something that enraged the Marquis, leading to the execution of the entire family. Haley was devastated. Kyle had narrowly escaped death. Now he was just a child, abandoned by everyone, wandering alone for 2 whole years. She couldn't imagine how much the boy had suffered. Born into a noble lineage of knights, he bore a tragic past due to his parents' supposed sins. Thinking about it, Baron was in the exact same situation. He too came from a prestigious family and was once hailed as strong. It was exactly like the knights from the spin-off novel. Baron knew the Utra family was ruthless, but he never expected them to place a bounty on a 12-year-old child. They were completely insane. Haley found it curious. If you did the math, Baron would have only been 7 at the time. How did he know so much about this? Baron quickly explained that his parents had forced him to study noble genealogies and characteristics from a young age. Forcing a child that young to memorize all that? Early education is truly terrifying. But there was a problem. Since Kyle had a bounty on him, he couldn't be sent to the orphanage in the capital because there were too many spies everywhere. Furthermore, Countess Beldenbrow was extremely close with Marquise Utra. If she found out, she'd be the first to hand the boy over. Raven felt he had to point out a harsh reality. Harboring the child was an incredibly dangerous choice. He is the son of a high-ranking noble and has a bounty on his head. Harboring him will be seen as aiding and abetting a fugitive, even if he is just a child. If word of this reaches the nobles, you will be in grave danger, Miss Haley. Her expression turned to pure disgust. Are you saying we should just stand by and watch Kyle get killed? Or are you planning to report him right here and now? Raven tried to explain he didn't mean it like that, but she wasn't listening. I never expected to hear such words from you, Mr. Raven. We don't have any extra space here anyway, so you should leave. With that, she pushed Raven out the door. She called Kyle inside. Kyle, from now on, do not go near that man. Keep your distance. Mr. Raven, I am truly grateful for your help rescuing the children, but what you just said was deeply disappointing. And just like that, Raven was kicked out. Coincidentally, Kamaris, who was standing behind him, casually remarked, "Looks like you got kicked out." After closing the door, she felt incredibly sad. She couldn't understand why Raven would say something like that. Baron was a noble child, too. By that logic, if Baron were ever in danger, would they just turn a blind eye to him as well? But the Kyle in her arms was acting strangely. Actually, you've known I was a wanted fugitive all along, haven't you? He told her to stop playing dumb. You're definitely going to turn me in to get the bounty. In Kyle's eyes, once she turned him in, she'd get a massive payout and her life would improve. She told him to calm down. I never said I was going to turn you in. We want to protect you. She looked at the pastries Raven had left behind. You seem really anxious. Why don't you have something sweet to calm down and then we'll talk, okay? Kyle violently swatted the pastries out of her hand. Crash! The treats scattered all over the floor. You adults are all the same. You only care about yourselves. No matter what others go through, no matter what they've lost, even if someone gets dragged off and murdered, you don't care at all. It seemed Kyle's heart was scarred by a trauma that made him unable to trust anyone. In the end, he felt he was no different from these dropped pastries. No matter what I used to be, now that I've fallen to rock bottom and am trampled by everyone, I'm just like this pastry, I'm trash. Seeing Kyle like this broke her heart. His body was trembling. He just wanted to live. Was that a crime? He doesn't want to die. That sentence struck her to her core. I know you don't want to die. And no one is going to die, do you understand? She picked up a pastry from the floor. Look closely, Kyle. This macaron, even if it falls on the floor and rolls around, it's still a macaron, right? That means no matter how your circumstances change, your true essence doesn't change. Even with a little dirt on it, its value as a dessert remains the same. And by the way, your sister here isn't the type to throw things away just because they fell on the floor. If something falls and gets dirty, we just need to dust it off. Then we can still eat it. She gently brushed off the pastry and popped it into her mouth. Both boys were stunned. As she chewed, a shudder ran through her body. Oh no, she messed up again. Kyle noticed she looked unwell. He urgently asked what was wrong. She instantly realized something was terribly wrong. She had swallowed shards of broken glass along with it. The room erupted in panic. Outside, Raven heard the commotion. Before he could react, the little emperor kicked the door open. He ordered Raven and Kamaris to find a carriage immediately. Haley walked out, insisting she was fine. But her appearance only made Baron panic more. Are you two deaf? He roared at his men. Kyle clung tightly to Haley. Terrified, Raven and Kamaris wasted no time, immediately preparing a carriage while administering first aid to stop Haley's bleeding. Baron gently helped Haley into the carriage. It sped off at a breakneck pace. Sister Haley, you have to hold on. The sight left bystanders utterly confused. What's going on over there? Why the rush? A woman's voice cut through the murmurs. What is all this commotion? It's so dusty. She then overheard people saying the young lady in the carriage was the girl who had cracked the kidnapping case. Nilo was puzzled. The local lord explained, I heard a girl solved the kidnapping. Nilo thought to herself, the derivative portal I planted here was destroyed, yet the kidnapping still happened. That proves Broden is likely here. Nilo wanted to know where the rescued kids were. If she followed that trail, she might run into Broden. Even if she didn't, just getting involved in a case he was working on would earn her some favor points with him. So Nilo asked the Lord to take her to see the kids personally. 3 hours later, she had finally been treated. I'm so sorry for making everyone worry. Baron replied, you don't need to apologize, as long as you're okay. And it wasn't your fault to begin with. He glared intensely at Raven across the carriage, silently demanding an apology. But Raven was already prepared to apologize without Baron prompting him. I was an absolute fool. I never should have said those things. So to make up for my mistake, I will personally guarantee Kyle's safety. I won't let anyone lay a finger on him. There's no need to send him to the orphanage. Raven stated he could take care of him, but there was one condition. Kyle could never use the name Freddage again, otherwise he risked being discovered. Kyle gently tugged on Raven's sleeve. If it means I can live, I don't care about the name. I'll just live as Kyle. But can I still live with Sister Haley? The little emperor snapped, over my dead body. Seeing this, she finally relaxed. She was so happy for Kyle. By the time they got back to town, it was almost evening. Baron noticed people lurking near the shack. One of them looked like the Lord of Snorl. She was curious why he was here. Raven guessed he was here about the kidnapping case. She thought it was strange since he hadn't cared before. Raven sensed trouble. He had seen the wanted poster. If he left now, Kyle would be exposed. Raven planned to slip out the back and temporarily hide Kyle at his estate. As for her, she didn't need to worry. She was officially registered as the temporary guardian of the children. She decided to go hear what they had to say. Nilo found it odd that she still hadn't seen a trace of Broden. I didn't expect to find him easily anyway. I'll focus on getting involved in this case first. She noticed the area was much tidier than expected. Maybe the children are well cared for here. Your Highness, you're looking at the wrong house. The shelter is the shack next to it, the Lord corrected. Nilo was speechless. Could such a tiny place hold several children? Just then, she walked up behind them. I am the owner of this house. How can I help you? The Lord looked at her with blatant disgust. So you're the temporary guardian. Your Highness Nilo, this is the children's guardian, the Lord introduced. She looked at her. Orange hair, green eyes, and the name Nilo. She was the original female lead of the story. It felt like she was meeting a celebrity. Was it time for the male and female leads to meet? Stop spacing out and take us inside, the Lord snapped. Internally, Baron grumbled, this princess must be Nilo of the Kalat Kingdom. Kalat is the nation that launched a war against the Empire while we were defending against monsters. They are war criminals. Nilo was the last person Baron wanted to see. He couldn't fathom why she was here. She invited them inside. The children are all in here. But what they saw next shocked everyone. The kids were trying to cook, and the room was filled with thick black smoke. She immediately stamped out the fire. What are you guys doing? I told you 1,000,000 times not to do anything dangerous like this. They explained they were starving and wanted to cook like she did. Then she heard Nilo's voice. Look at this place. Cramped, narrow, barely any furniture, and a total mess. Not to mention leaving the children in such a dangerous situation. Who do you think you are? I heard you've been protecting these children, despite not even having a verified identity yourself. Acting as a guardian in these atrocious conditions as a literal nobody. This is utterly absurd. Nilo deemed her completely unfit to care for the kids. Her words were incredibly harsh, but she couldn't refute them. Am I really not helping them at all in my current situation? Princess Nilo tore Haley down until she felt completely worthless. Perhaps she was right. Haley couldn't even manage to feed the kids properly. Maybe she shouldn't have stepped up to be their guardian. If she hadn't intervened, maybe someone more capable would have been chosen. The Lord stepped in, telling Princess Nilo not to trouble herself further. He would handle it. He ordered his men to take the children to the nearest orphanage for settlement, and to detain Miss Haley for an investigation into any criminal record. Haley panicked. They absolutely could not be sent to the Snorrel orphanage. She and Baron had been there, and it was horrific. The Lord was furious. Are you saying my local orphanage is subpar? He immediately ordered Haley to be taken away and locked up. Baron lunged forward and hugged the man's leg. The young emperor was furious. Don't you dare take my sister away! She begged Baron to let go, warning him it was too dangerous. But Baron acted as if he didn't hear her. At that exact moment, footsteps echoed from outside. Baron's pupils shifted, transforming into the emperor's eyes. Suddenly, a hand clamped down on the guard who was about to grab Haley. It was Kimaris. Treating a lady so roughly isn't very polite, Kimaris said smoothly, releasing his grip. I apologize for the sudden intrusion. I am a mercenary hired by the Raven Trading Company. He claimed he had heard the Lord was inspecting the area and took the liberty of coming to see him. He was stunned. What was Kimaris doing? That guard had almost hurt her. Kimari should have just broken his arm. But Kimari subtly signaled for the little emperor to restrain himself. They weren't speaking aloud, but they were communicating. This was one of Kimaris' abilities. Once his consciousness was activated, it merged with Baron's, sharing sensory perceptions. Ah, he saw. No wonder he's always close by, just in case. He had been observing from the start, so there was no need to explain the situation. Now that Baron and Kimaris shared a consciousness, Baron could transmit orders directly to Kimaris' mind. This ability was perfect for situations where he couldn't intervene personally. Acting as Baron's mouthpiece, Kimaris explained to the Lord, Miss Haley is an old acquaintance of Baron, so there's no need for such hostility. In fact, she was the one who led the operation to rescue the children. More importantly, my lord, what brings you here? We received no prior notice of your visit. Nilo claimed she had asked the Lord to bring her because she wanted to check on the rescued children. Though I never expected to find them in such appalling conditions. But since the gods guided us here, there must be a reason. We must find a proper home for these children immediately. Kimaris bowed slightly. Forgive my earlier disrespect. I was unaware of your identity, your highness. This nauseated Baron. What is this woman hiding? She is a princess of the Kalat Kingdom. Why is she holding back? Here is the situation, Kimaris continued. The Baron is currently making arrangements to transfer these children to an orphanage in the capital. If the Lord permits, we would like to handle this transfer ourselves. Is that acceptable? When the Lord heard about sending the children to the capital's orphanage, he hesitated. Bypassing the Snorrel orphanage and sending them all the way to the capital? Does this Baron think he can look down on us country folks just because he's from the capital? And there was a more pressing issue. If the kids were sent to the capital, the local government would lose the subsidies for them. That was absolutely unacceptable. So he suggested handling the matter locally instead. Princess Nilo agreed. There's no need to go all the way to the capital. Nilo finally revealed her true objective. Why don't we ask the Baron to come out so we can speak privately? Why use an intermediary? Baron was fuming internally. Even after backing down this much, they still won't yield? But right now, protecting Haley was the priority. If they actually launched an investigation, it would only lead to harassing her. So it was best to retreat. As for Haley's identity, it would be verified through the capital's registry anyway, so the local lord didn't need to trouble himself with investigating her. The lord nodded nonchalantly. If that's the case, then that works best. She looked back at the kids, her worry plainly visible to Baron. If only I could return to my true body, I wouldn't be this helpless. After things settled down, Nilo decided to take a walk by the beach. This was where she had buried the black hole last time. She surveyed the area. It seemed quite secluded and safe. Nilo prepared to plant a seed right there. She pulled out a prototype of a black hole portal and placed several in a row, marking the 11th one. Just to be safe, she planned to bury another one deep in the forest, especially since the one near the docks had been destroyed. However, there was one thing that really bothered Nilo. That woman who showed up earlier was incredibly strange. She didn't have a verified identity, yet she wasn't afraid to speak her mind loudly. While those details weren't the most important, there was one thing far stranger than all of that. Haley had a very familiar scent about her.